The Iowa football coaching staff has had a good week. Recruiting wins across the state of Iowa, and the Hawkeyes continuing to dominate within the border in the class of 2024. Reece Vander Zee, skill position guy, a wide receiver. Those words are always welcome news around Hawkeye Nation. Committing to the Hawkeyes from Rock Rapids, a place Iowa's recruited very well. We'll talk about Reece and what he brings to the table, what I see from him on tape, and where I think Iowa stands in this 24 recruiting class. A lot of progress having been made in the last few days. But first, I want to tell you about Aura. If you haven't heard about our partnership with Aura, check it out, folks. Visit aura.com/Hawkeyes and sign up for a free trial. Protect your information. We know there's hackers, robocallers, and spammers constantly trying to take your information and profit off of it. Don't let that happen, folks. Visit our link, which is in the description below, www.aura.com/Hawkeyes. And as you sign up for a free trial through our link right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, you are supporting the show, and you'll find out the great benefits of being a part of the Aura community. Again, that's aura.com/Hawkeyes. So as we said at the outset, Reece Vander Zee, a 6'5" wide receiver. That's kind of become a common thread. Iowa really targeting bigger receivers. We'll talk about that in just a second as well. But Reece, out of Rock Rapids, was teammates with Graham Eben, who just committed as a preferred walk-on. Probably will end up at linebacker, maybe a defensive back at Iowa. And then, of course, Zach Lutmer, who's a scholarship guy who is now on campus in 2023. He's part of the 23 class. He also played with Reece Vander Zee back at Rock Rapids Central Lion. And so Reece is an interesting prospect because of his size. Again, he's listed at 6'5", 190 pounds. Didn't have a ton of high major offers. Nebraska offered, Iowa State offered, and Iowa offered. Now, with that being said, you look at some of the other offers, there are some intriguing ones on the list, some really solid FCS schools like South Dakota State, Northern Iowa, Montana State. And then how about this? Offer from Yale, offer from Air Force, very unique offers. I always love when I see those types of offers on a commits list because it gives an indication of a couple different things. One, he's probably a pretty hard worker. I think if Air Force is going to drop you an offer, usually that's an indicator that this kid's got a good work ethic. Now, Air Force does not throw the football, so that's also an indication that Reece Vander Zee, I'm guessing, is seen as a guy who can block or catch. I mean, obviously, he can high point the football. That's one thing that stood out on tape for me, is he can go up and get the football, which is good for a guy who's 6'5". Ideally, you'd like for him to become a red zone threat, kind of a Brandon Smith-esque player. I don't think Reece has got blazing quick speed. He was a hurdler in high school up at Central Lion, and a good one. No question about it. Was a good one. Does not have the speed of a Zach Lutmer or certainly that of a Cooper DeJean. And Iowa does need a breakaway guy at receiver. Now, perhaps Caleb Brown ends up being that for a couple of years here at Iowa. Perhaps Iowa can land someone else in the transfer portal in this next cycle. And they've got a couple other kids on their radar that I think have better breakaway speed at receiver. But it's just going to be a challenge. We've talked about this so many times. It's going to be a challenge to be able to lure a wide receiver who's got top-tier athleticism and breakaway speed to Iowa. And I know the critics out there who don't like my opinions on things laughed at me when I made a notion that, hey, maybe Iowa should consider using Cooper DeJean here and there on offense. I said that last year when Iowa was struggling mightily on offense. And frankly, if they hadn't nabbed Caleb in the portal, I'd probably still be lobbying for that to happen. Now, with some injuries, I don't think you can take that off the table. And from what I've been told, I don't think it's as far-fetched as you might think. I think a lot of people think, well, that's not going to happen. I don't think it's as far-fetched as you might think. I know I'm going on a tangent. The point is, Iowa needs speed. They need athleticism. They've got athleticism. They've got size with Reece Vander Zee. Speed, I don't know. I know people have referred to him this week as the prototypical X guy. I don't know how many prototypical X guys Iowa can recruit. Jarrett Bowie is a prototypical X guy. Dayton Howard is a prototypical X guy. Brody Brecht was a prototypical X guy. Now Brody has given up football to pursue baseball, which I think is a good decision on his part. And by no means am I taking a shot at Reece Vander Zee because, again, from what I saw on tape, he knows how to high point the football. He's a willing blocker, and he's a good route runner, which is good to see. He knows how to track the football. Those are all positives, right? Those are all positives. He was a first-team All-State wide receiver at the 2A level. So those are all great things. My simple point is Iowa's still got a lot of work to do at wide receiver. That's not breaking news to anyone. Yes, Iowa added a couple of guys in the transfer portal this year. And heck, maybe Seth Anderson ends up being a guy that can be a breakaway guy. I think potentially he's got that opportunity. A guy from Charleston Southern played at the FCS level and has got a lot to prove at Iowa coming off a hamstring injury. But the point is, Iowa has gotten a lot of size here recently at that position. I think the next task at hand is to go out and get speed, and that is easier said than done. But this is a good ad. I'm going to say that. I want to make it very clear. This is a good ad. You have to secure the border if you're Iowa, all right? Anybody wants to say, well, why are you getting all these three-star kids from the state of Iowa? Got to secure the border. This kid was wanted by Nebraska, by Iowa State, and a bunch of other good schools. Perhaps he would have gotten more offers. He probably would have had he waited. Point is, Iowa got him. They've dominated the state of Iowa. They've got like 8 of the top 9 players in the state of Iowa for the class of 2024, which is mind-boggling when you think about it, especially with some of the headway it looked like Matt Campbell and company had made at Iowa State in recent time. Iowa has dominated within the borders for the class of 2024. So congratulations to Reece. He'll be reunited with Zach Lutmer. And again, Graham Eben, who's a preferred walk-on, who will be a preferred walk-on, will also be a part of that class. So they've got a little pipeline up to Central Lyon High School up in Rock Rapids. So congratulations to Reece Vander Zee. And perhaps he's got better speed than I see on tape. I mean, it's hard to look at huddle film and say, hey, this guy's got great speed. Just saying, he's a hurdler in high school. I don't think he's a 4.4, 4.5 guy. Let's just say that. But doesn't mean that he can't still be really useful. And Iowa needs receivers that can block. Obviously, that's why Brandon Smith was so good at Iowa. Didn't get a lot of production. I think one could argue that's more a result of play calling, etc. And we can have that discussion another night. And Jacob Hillier, great example. Go back to 2015. Iowa was really thin at receiver. Jacob Hillier started because of his ability to use his frame and block really well. And Reece Vander Zee's got a really big frame, obviously, and he puts on some more pounds. He really could be that ideal X guy. And keep in mind, my comments about Iowa needing more speed and not paying as much attention to size is not just some idea that I'm throwing at you. That is something that Coach Don Patterson has talked about on our shows in the past, that he believes, and I trust Don Patterson's ability to evaluate offensive players. He believes that a lot of schools, not just Iowa, a lot of schools place a little bit too much emphasis on wide receiver height and frame and not enough emphasis on speed, quickness. Look at Tyreek Hill, for example. I know he's brought him up a number of times. He's like 5'9", and he's probably one of the best receivers in the league. He's no question one of the best receivers in the National Football League. I get that's anecdotal evidence, but we'll see. They've got an offer out to KJ Parker out of, I believe, the Chicago area in Illinois. They've got another kid scheduled from Florida set to come and visit in the fall. Hopefully he doesn't commit anywhere before then. I think those guys maybe have a little bit better burst. They're just different styles of wide receivers. They're not 6'5". They're 5'10", 5'11" in that range. But again, perhaps height a little bit overrated at that position. Congratulations to Reece Vander Zee. Hope he sticks at Iowa and hope he has a great, great career. He grew up a Hawkeye fan, according to multiple reports. So I'm sure he is thrilled to death. Congratulations to him and his family. And if you're Kelton Copeland, you got bodies. Now you got to develop them. That's the challenge ahead for a raw group and an athletic group. They got athletes coming in. I want to tell you about something very special, folks. Tomorrow night, I'm recording this on the 28th day of June, Wednesday, June 28th. On the 29th, that's Thursday night, we'll be going live for a live edition of Hawkeye Hangout at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, folks, talking about Iowa recruiting and where we're at the end of June, just a couple months away from the season. Join me live, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. It's Hawkeye Hangout, taking your calls, your chats. We'll have a good time. We'll talk to you then.